Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well and are having a good morning this morning. So, we are from Group 7 and we are going to do a presentation on teaching across age level children, adults, and in between. So, allow me to introduce the members of Group 7 who are Andrew Pandidamai, me, Dina Aulia, and then Fatimah Azhara, and last but not least is Julia Dwi Aryani. So without further ado, let's just jump into our presentation. So the first material, which is teaching children, the younger the better, by our first speaker, Fatimah Azhara, will be explained right after this. So Fatimah Azhara, you can take over.
So the first thing is teaching children, the younger the better. To successfully teach children a second language requires specific skills and intuition that differ from those appropriate for adult teaching. So there is 5 categories may help give practical approaches to teaching children. So the first one is intellectual development. What is intellectual development? So because children are still in intellectual stage of what gets called concert operation, so we need to remember their limitation, rules, explanation, and other even slightly abstract talk about language must be approached with extreme caution. Children are centered on the here and now, on the functional purpose of language. They have little appreciation for our adult notion of correctness. Jadi mengajar anak-anak itu ketika dia masih anak-anak, kita perlu tahu batasannya yang bisa diajari oleh si guru tersebut. Jadi ketika mengajar anak harus lebih hati-hati karena anak-anak itu lebih fokus kepada yang ada di sini dan yang sekarang. Jadi anak-anak bisa membayangkan apa yang diajarkan oleh si guru. Oh ini artinya, oh ini begini. Jadi si anak itu bisa mengimajinasikan apa yang dijelaskan oleh si guru. Kemudian ketika ada kesalahan sedikit sebagai seorang guru yang mengajari anak-anak, maka itu bisa diterima. Artinya tidak perlu harus tepat 100% untuk mengajar si anak-anak tersebut karena kita bisa menerima, karena di sini disebutkan they have little appreciation for our adult notion of correctness. Dan kemudian yang harus dilakukan seorang guru, the first thing is don't explain grammar using terms. Jadi grammar yang sulit-sulit tidak perlu diajarkan untuk anak-anak. Kemudian yang kedua, rules stated in abstract terms should be avoided. Mengajarkan sesuatu yang abstrak tidak tersusun, jadi tidak boleh diajarkan kepada anak-anak. Kemudian yang ketiga, some grammatical concepts, especially at the upper levels of childhood, can be called learners' attention by showing them certain patterns and examples. Jadi ketika mengajar beberapa konsep grammar, spesialnya upper levels of childhood, kita harus menunjukkan bagaimana sih patterns-nya, bagaimana sih susunannya, kemudian kita berikan contohnya agar si anak lebih mengerti. Kemudian yang keempat, certain more difficult concepts or pattern require more repetition than adults need, but not the point of boredom. Jadi ketika mengajar si anak ini, ketika mengajarkan grammar yang sedikit lebih susah daripada yang di poin ketiga, maka lebih banyak pengulangan yang diperlukan agar si anak ini lebih ingat dan lebih paham dari grammar yang kita sampaikan. Kemudian, when you do short drills, make sure your students understand the meaning and the relevance of what they are reciting. Jadi ketika kita melakukan latihan atau pengulangan, pastikan murid Anda tersebut mengerti artinya apa dan hubungannya apa dari konteks yang diajarkan. Karena ketika seorang murid hanya mengulangi apa yang diucapkan siswa tanpa mengetahui artinya, itu akan mudah dilupakan, akan mudah lupa, jadi pelajarannya hilang begitu saja. Kemudian selanjutnya ada attention span. Attention span is amount of concentrate time a person can spend on task without becoming distracted. Jadi attention span ini adalah waktu di mana siswa mengerjakan sesuatu tanpa diganggu. Jadi dia tidak boleh diganggu oleh kegiatan apapun, oleh hal apapun. Jadi dia fokus kepada tugas yang diberikan saat itu. Jadi di sini childhood development expert generally say that a reasonable attention span to expect of a child is 2 or 3 minutes per year of their age. That's a period time of which typical child can maintain focus on a given task. Jadi attention span ini, waktunya ini bisa 2 sampai 3 menit per tahun dari umur anak tersebut. Jadi di sini disebutkan 2 years old 4 until 6 minutes, 4 years old 8 until 12 minutes, 6-year-olds 12 until 18 minutes, 8 years old 16 until 24 minutes, and 10 years old 20 until 30 minutes. Jadi disebutkan di sini kisaran waktunya dari tahun ke tahun itu ditambah 2 sampai 3 menit seperti yang disebutkan oleh expert tadi. Kemudian di sini kesimpulannya adalah children are focused on the immediate here and now, so activities need to design to capture their immediate interest. Jadi pengajaran yang diberikan kepada anak itu berupa apa yang ada di sini, apa yang ada di sekarang ini. Jadi aktivitasnya itu didesain agar si anak ini tertarik kepada pelajarannya. Kemudian a teacher needs to be animated, lively, and enthusiastic about their subject matters. Jadi si guru ini harus bisa membuat siswa itu mengimajinasikan, menganimasikan, dan menghidupkan pelajaran tersebut sehingga anak bisa tertarik. Kemudian nomor 3, a sense of humor will go a long way to keep children loving and learning. Jadi harus ada sedikit humor di pelajaran tersebut. Misalnya ketika di TK atau SD pengajarannya diselingi dengan permainan sehingga siswa itu dapat bermain sambil belajar. Kemudian yang keempat, children have a lot natural curiosity to make sure we tap into curiosity whenever possible and we will thoroughly help to maintain attention and focus. Jadi seorang anak itu memiliki rasa penasarannya sendiri. Jadi pastikan kita tahu rasa penasarannya dan kita bisa memasukkan atau menyelipkan pelajaran kepada si anak sehingga dia lebih tertarik dan bisa memfokuskan diri saat kita mengajar anak tersebut. Itu saja dari saya kembalikan kepada teman saya selanjutnya. Terima kasih.
Alright, thank you Fatima Azhara for the explanation. So I will then take over for the next element of teaching children, which is sensory input. So as we all know, we have 5 sensory input, which is sight, hearing, smelling, taste, and touch. And when we are teaching children who is still learning, we need to stimulate all of these 5 senses when we are teaching them. So how do we stimulate all of these 5 senses in one learning process? So here are some tips that we got from the book of TEFL. So first is that we need to prepare our lessons with physical activity. So what does this mean by preparing our lesson with physical activity? So while we are giving our lessons, our materials, we can make them incorporate these lessons by maybe doing dances, doing singing, and maybe walk around the room, get to the door. Therefore, they will understand the language better. And not only that, their psychomotoric cognitive will also increase, which is definitely a good thing. And second, we can also project, and other hand activities will help children in internalizing the language. So we talk about singing a song, doing dances, and doing physical movements like raised hands. So those are the kind of things that will make them internalize language. Like maybe when you tell them to raise their hands like this, raise your hand, they will raise their hand, and they will remember, oh, raising hand is like this. And maybe when you are giving lessons through songs or through dances, through cooking, they will remember the language better. So do a lot of fun things and make different activities each lesson so that they will not get bored and they will be more interested in what you're teaching, and so on and so forth. Now next is that sensory aids help children internalizing concepts. So in prior, we talked about how maybe singing, dancing, and doing physical activities will help them also internalize language. But like maybe when you are teaching them how to cook, when you are giving them, for example, giving them an orange, so you will you will stimulate their touch, and then you will stimulate their taste, and then sight, and then smell, and they will internalize that orange. Like, so in the orange, what is in the orange? Like, how does it smell? Like, how does it taste? Like, how does it feel? And they will internalize that concept in their mind, which also will internalize the concept of language that they found, that they will know in the orange and stuff like that. Now next is that sensory aids help children internalizing concepts. So in prior, we talked about how maybe singing, dancing, and doing physical activities will help them also internalize language. But like maybe when you are teaching them how to cook, when you are giving them, for example, giving them an orange, so you will stimulate their touch, and then you will stimulate their taste, and then sight, and then smell, and they will internalize that orange. Like, so in the orange, what is in the orange? Like, how does it smell? Like, how does it taste? Like, how does it feel? And they will internalize that concept in their mind, which also will internalize the concept of language that they found, that they will know in the orange and stuff like that. Last, remember that your nonverbal communication is very important, because children pay attention so much to your verbal language and body language, actually nonverbal language and body language and such things like that. So maybe, for example, we are teaching compliments. If you give this example on giving compliments, like, you look really beautiful today, they will internalize the concept that compliment is boring. You should have flat expression when you're giving compliments and sound that you don't mean it. So when you are teaching, you need to use your body language and expression when you're teaching children, because they're still learning and they do things by looking and copying. So therefore, a better example for compliment is might be like this: wow, you look really good today, I like your clothes, and all that stuff. And then they will internalize that giving compliments is something that makes people happy and makes the complimenter happy as well. So they will know how to give you compliments, what face to put on, what body language they should do, and things like that. So therefore, their sensory input also being used in this context. So that's all for sensory input. Next is affective factors. So affective factors are emotional factors that will influence learning process. So maybe as adults or as teenager, we experience something that is like insecurity or overthinking. Maybe when you see your friend doing better than you, you will think, wow, they do so good. Like, what if I can do that and stuff like that? You might think only adults feel that way, but actually children are probably more fragile than adults. They can overthink, they can think of what others think of them, and so on and so forth. So how do we control this affective factor? So in the book it says that first, help students to laugh it out in fixing mistakes. So obviously, as students, learners, they will make mistake, and it's okay to fix their mistake, but however, do not take it too far or seriously, because they're still children. You need to have a lot of fun, a bit of laugh, a bit of jokes in fixing their mistakes, so therefore they won't feel too insecure about it. Second is be patient and be supportive of your students. Why? Because we need to build their self-esteem better. So when they are having mistake, as we said before, fix it, but take a joke, like maybe, not take a joke, but like make a little bit laugh out of it, having a bit of joke, having a bit of laugh, and just be patient when they make mistakes and all that. And when they do good, when they have achievement, don't forget to compliment them, because that will make them feel better and have better self-esteem. And last is to elicit as much oral participation as possible, especially for the quiet one. So elicit here means to draw more oral participation. Draw means like munching the students to speak more, like maybe in many ways possible. There are definitely many ways to munching the students to talk, and here is written especially the quieter ones. So try your best as teachers to munching your children's students to speak more. Okay, that's all for the affective factors. Okay, last on teaching children is that authentic, meaningful language. So, authentic learning is an instructional approach that allows students to connect their materials to involve real world problems and so on and so forth. So, basically, it's like they need to connect what they are learning to the real life problems, like maybe, for example, as I said before, giving compliments, like how do they give compliments, what is the use, and how they're gonna use it in real life time, and so on and so forth. So how do we include this authentic, meaningful language in teaching children? So first is that we need to be real and be genuine. We need to show them that we love teaching them, so therefore they will be more interested and pay attention to us if we really do care about them, because they can feel if we care not about them and if we are ikhlas in teaching them and stuff like that. Second, language needs to be firmly context embedded. What does this mean? So as I said before, the material should connect and have a relationship to real life things. So and how in order to do that, for example, maybe we can learn about narrative text. So you will probably show like a traditional narrative text that includes legenda and something like that. That is what it means by context embedded. So it can be in storylines, in story, in conversation. So it is easier for them to understand the language if there is context of the language. Like the narrative text, the example is the legenda story and stuff like that. And for the compliments, there's probably a conversation that you can give to them so they will understand what compliment is and so on and so forth. Because it is just easier to learn language if you know the context and how to use it in the context as well. And last, capitalize on the interrelationships among the skills. So we have 4 skills: listening, speaking, writing, and reading. So try to combine those 4 whenever you have the chance. For the minimally you can include 2 of the skills when you are teaching, because if they learn language in small bites, so small bits pieces, it's kind of hard for them to understand the language as a whole. Kalau bisa-bisa jadi susah gitu mereka pahamnya nanti. Jadi bisa jadi kita mengajarkan mungkin writing, and then you can tell them to read their writing in front of the class. That's actually 3 skills. People will listen, and the student that maju ke depan membaca dan menulis yang telah dia membacakan yang telah dia tulis. So it's like 3 skills at once. So whenever you have the chance to connect, to include these skills together, just do it so that they will learn better. So I think that's all from me for this children thing. The next material, which is teaching adult, the adult advantage, will be explained by Julia Dwi Aryani. Julia, take over.
So now I will explain about teaching adult the adult advantage. Adults have superior cognitive abilities that can make them more successful in certain classroom endeavors. Their need for sensory can rely a little more on their imagination. And because of adult cognitive abilities, they can at least occasionally deal with language that is not embedded in here and now context. Maksudnya di sini adalah adult learner memiliki kemampuan yang lebih unggul dibandingkan children learner. Dibandingkan dengan children learner yang hanya dapat mendeskripsikan atau menggambarkan situasi yang terjadi sekarang, adult learner bisa mendeskripsikan dan menjabarkan situasi yang tidak mereka lihat atau situasi yang tidak terjadi sekarang. This is specifically at the adult student. Yang pertama itu adalah abstract thinking ability. Adults are better able to understand a context-ready segment of language. Maksudnya adalah adult learner dapat memahami penggunaan bahasa dalam sebuah konteks. Jadi mereka memakai kata-kata yang sesuai dengan konteks yang diterapkan. Yang kedua adalah attention span. Adults have longer attention span. for material that may not be intrinsically interesting to them. Bahwa adult learner itu memiliki rentang perhatian yang lebih lama untuk sesuatu yang mungkin tidak menarik bagi mereka. Yang ketiga adalah self-confidence. Adults often bring a modicum of general self-confidence into a classroom, so their egos may be somewhat stronger. But we should never underestimate the emotional fragility of adults. Yang keempat adalah vocational interest. Vocational interest represent meaningful individual difference which reflect preference for certain work-related behaviors and environment. Maksudnya adalah adult learner akan lebih tertarik pada minat yang mereka miliki. Contohnya saja seperti seorang yang tertarik pada bidang kesehatan, saat kuliah nanti mereka akan mengambil jurusan yang berkaitan dengan kesehatan. Contohnya saja seperti dokter, perawat, bidan, atau segala macam. Adapun yang perlu diperhatikan ketika mengajar adult learner adalah yang pertama, beware too much abstract explanation of grammar and vocabulary. Keep adult focus primarily on meaning, secondary on form. Jadi, maksudnya adalah jangan terlalu banyak penjelasan yang abstrak atau penjelasan yang tidak diberikan contohnya, dan fokus kepada makna dan form. Yang kedua adalah even though adults cannot express complex thinking in their new language, they are nevertheless intelligent adults with mature cognition and adult emotion. Meskipun mereka tidak dapat mengekspresikan pendapat mereka dalam bahasa yang baru, tetapi mereka cerdas dalam kognisi dan emosi. Yang ketiga, do not treat adults in your class like children by calling them kids. Jangan memperlakukan adults itu seperti children. Yang keempat adalah adults have longer attention span than children. Jadi adult itu memiliki rentang perhatian terhadap materi itu lebih lama dibandingkan children. Yang kelima, give your student as many opportunities as possible to make choice about what they will do in and out of the classroom. Kita harus memberikan siswa kita kesempatan untuk memilih tentang apa yang akan mereka lakukan di dalam dan di luar kelas. Yang keenam, give them opportunities to share their stories. Memberikan kesempatan kepada mereka untuk membagikan cerita mereka. Yang ketujuh adalah tap into your student vocation or a vocation interest as much as possible in your choice of topic, issues, question, and discussion in the classroom. Kita harus memilih topik, isu, pertanyaan, dan diskusi di kelas dengan topik yang diminati oleh siswa tersebut. So that's all for me. For the next will explain by my friend.
So for the last material in a presentation group is about teaching in between. Teaching in between is about how do you teach an 11 to 14 years old children to recognize and appreciate the enormous physical, mental, and emotional change that occurring at this age. Jadi maksudnya di sini adalah bagaimana cara kita mengajarkan anak-anak yang mulai memasuki usia remaja, yaitu antara 11 dan 14 tahun, yang bagaimana pada saat usia seperti itu biasanya mereka itu sedang berkembang, masa-masa transisi dan perubahan pada diri mereka. Jadi secara intelektual mereka itu sedang mengembangkan kemampuan mereka untuk berpikir secara abstrak. Jadi pada saat belajar second language-nya, mereka mampu melakukan pembelajaran menggunakan strategi yang eksplisit, yang dapat dilakukan secara sadar. Jadi kecerdasan mereka itu mengembang dan menjadi lebih terintegrasi dan komprehensif. Nah, kemudian the sense of identity is wrapped up in the turmoil of adolescence relationship bonding with any circle of friend. Jadi di sini maksudnya adalah identitas mereka itu sedang terbungkus pada masa-masa remaja mereka. Jadi pada masa-masa itu mereka terikat pada teman-teman mungkin untuk senang-senang kayak gitu, dan mereka itu bagaimana mereka memandang dapat juga bagaimana cara mereka memandang lawan jenis mereka yang mungkin sama juga sedang mengalami masa perkembangan. Jadi hal tersebut yang mempengaruhi konsentrasi seorang remaja belajar di dalam kelas sebagai tantangan yang signifikan bagi kita seorang pengajar di masa depan. Untuk lebih jelasnya ada 3 hal yang mempengaruhi bagaimana seorang remaja itu dapat belajar second language-nya. Yang pertama yaitu intellectual capacity. In Piaget term, the onset of abstract operational thought means more sophisticated intellectual processing increasingly possible. Jadi di sini maksudnya adalah bagaimana dalam Piaget istilah timbulnya pemikiran operasional abstrak itu sebagai suatu proses intelektual yang lebih canggih, sehingga masalah kompleks itu bisa diselesaikan dengan pemikiran yang logis. Yang kedua yaitu ada attention span. While attention span lightening with many diversion present in a teenager life, those potential attention span can easily be mitigated as the learner focus on the other things. Jadi di sini maksudnya adalah attention span itu sebagai jumlah waktu seseorang dapat berkonsentrasi pada suatu tugas tanpa menjadi terganggu. Pengalihan hadir dalam kehidupan remaja, rentang perhatian potensial itu dapat dengan mudah dikurangi karena pelajar berfokus pada hal-hal yang lainnya. Yang ketiga ada identity. Factors surrounding ego, self-image, and self-efficacy are at their pinnacle. Teens are ultra sensitive to how others perceive their changing physical and emotional self along with their mental capabilities. Jadi di sini maksudnya adalah bagaimana identitas mereka pada usia itu ada beberapa faktor yang mempengaruhi, ya seperti ego, citra diri mereka, dan efikasi diri mereka itu sedang berada di tahap puncaknya. Hal tersebut membuat mereka menjadi peka terhadap pandangan orang lain kepada mereka, baik itu terhadap fisik, emosi, dan mental mereka. Dengan adanya 3 hal yang sudah saya sebutkan tadi, ada cara-cara bagaimana kita mengajar seorang remaja itu untuk mempelajari bahasa keduanya atau second language-nya. Yang pertama adalah when you use explanation, definition, and other meta language, make them brief, to the point, and relevant to the communicative text at hand. Jadi maksudnya di sini saat kita menjelaskan atau mendefinisikan dan menggunakan bahasa yang lainnya, buatlah menjadi sesingkat mungkin dan langsung to the point, maksudnya langsung ke intinya saja, dan berhubungan dengan tugas-tugas komunikatif yang ada. Yang kedua adalah some of your activity can involve critical thinking. Jadi maksudnya di sini adalah buat aktivitas yang dapat melibatkan pemikiran kritis pada siswa kita. Yang ketiga, make sure your lesson have variety so that attention span is not an impending factor. Remember this is a classroom. Jadi di sini maksudnya adalah pastikan saat kita membawa pelajaran itu gunakan beberapa variasi dalam mengajar sehingga rentang perhatian mereka itu menjadi tidak terganggu dan bukan menjadi faktor penghambat dalam proses pembelajaran. Appeal to your student immediate interest. Jadi di sini maksudnya kita sebagai guru itu membandingkan minat langsung siswa kita itu sehingga membantu dalam proses pembelajarannya. Keep self-esteem high by affirming each learner's talent and strength. Avoid embracing them by calling attention to the mistake. Jadi di sini maksudnya adalah jaga harga diri siswa itu dengan menegaskan bakat dan kekuatan mereka. Jika kita memperhatikan kesalahan yang dibuat oleh seorang siswa, hal tersebut dapat membuat mereka itu menjadi malu dan kepercayaan diri mereka itu menjadi turun. Jadi hindari hal tersebut. Kemudian encourage small group work where risk can be taken more easily. In those group, emphasize cooperative teamwork and conversely, de-emphasize competition among classmates. Jadi di sini adalah buat kelompok kecil selama pembelajaran itu di mana resiko dapat diambil dan ditangani dengan lebih mudah. Jadi dalam kelompok tersebut tekankan untuk kerja sama tim dan kurangi penekanan persaingan di antara teman sekelas. So that's it from our presentation group. I'm sorry if there was a lot of mistake. Thank you for your attention guys and see you.